4.1, proposed disposition of land, bracket long-term care home, bracket, proposed or pending acquisition or disposal of land by the municipality, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. Item 4.2, appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal of application A13-23, and that was for 173 William Street. And that was considered under the following exemptions: litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege. And item 4.3, respect in the workplace, legal opinion, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. At the in-camera session, the following direction was given. So for item 4.1, the update and advice subject to solicitor-client privilege was received, and direction was given to the Chief Administrative Officer and the City Solicitor. For item 4.2, the update and advice subject to solicitor-client privilege were received, and that is the same for item 4.3, advice subject to solicitor-client privilege was received.
Thank you.
Moving to item 5.2, just prior to today's regular council meeting, a committee of the whole in-camera session was held to consider the following items. So item 4.1, proposed disposition of land, bracket, long-term care home, bracket, and that was considered under the following exemptions: proposed or pending acquisition or disposal of land by the municipality, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality. And item 4.2, respect in the workplace, and that was considered under the advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose exemption. And at the in-camera session for item 4.1, a report and legal advice were received, and direction was given to the City Chief Administrative Officer and the City Solicitor. And for item 4.2, legal advice was received.
Thank you.
Moving to item 6, hearings of deputations and presentations. Item 6.1 is a request for delegation by Eileen Smith, artistic producer of Hermione Presents Springworks Festival. And there is a motion that Eileen Smith be heard.
Moved by Councillor Burback, second by Councillor Henderson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That's unanimous and carried. If you come around, just come around through those doors. Yes.
Can you sing your presentation to us?
I could extend a way, but you might get tired. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, Ritzma, and you lovely councillors for giving us the time to present here. And I'm going to put my little stopwatch on here, so I'm going to try and stay accurately on time. I've given you both a sort of short point form version and a couple of elements here that we will just scroll through, and I may or may not get to all of them, but the point of the exercise is, many of you know me, I'm Eileen Smith, and I've been in the area for more than 30 years, and we initially were a collective, Hermione Presents, and we've since then become incorporated in a charity, and as of 2011, Springworks Festival was born at the invitation of Tourism Stratford and the Perth County Visitors Association. And from day one, we had puppets. And our very, very first puppet was As You Puppet, which was coming from the Lorena Kimsa Festival in Toronto, award-winning event, classical text, plush toys, tabletop, and we fell in love with puppetry. And from that day on, we have been doing some version of presenting puppetry. Over the arc of the time that we have been since 2011, we have hosted a mini festival followed by embedded 3-day festivals on top of our 11-day multidisciplinary festival, and eventually providing options. Here we have pictures of us proceeding. We have done freestanding puppet festival in 2018 and 2019 in Market Square, and in 2021 we were the first to open with live programming at Gallery Stratford just after COVID. And we presented a 3-day festival with 8 weeks notice thanks to glorious COVID funding. And so We've been presenting puppetry all along. As of 22 and 23, we started partnering with Stratford Summer Music to bring you World in a Weekend International Puppet and Music Festival. And with some of our additional funding that came because of COVID money, we've been able for the last 3 years to present programming at Christmas and across the wintertime with our giant illuminated puppets who danced this year in the middle of a blizzard and brought hundreds of people out to play. As a note, over the last 2 summers alone, we've had over 23,000 people come, and our visitor spending, as determined by TRIUM, which is a widget on the Ontario Tourism Authority's website, we're worth 3 million plus. So we feel that we bring a lot to the community. We are now programming across the whole season, but I thought it would be interesting to present a little bit of information about puppetry in the general. Many of us know of the Muppets, and often in the general public it is the only understanding of puppetry, but it is actually a worldwide, multicultural, ancient art form with zillions of traditions. And they come in sock puppets, some of us might remember Sherry Lewis, and giant puppets that are the size of buildings that come out of Royal Deluxe. And along the line, you also get your hand and glove mouth puppets that are the Muppets, long string marionettes, banraku, humanettes, object puppetry, tabletop, cranky, shadow puppets, lantern puppets, stilt walking puppets, mechanical strolling puppets, Indonesian and Chinese traditions, and giants are just some of the practices. So we are excited about centering Stratford as a world-class center for puppetry. And we're well on the way to doing it. By the nature of being a puppet entity in our little presentations, we got invited to being in Montreal, which is Castelier, is the International Puppet Festival there. And every year they have on the average of 30 to 54 delegates from all over the world. And I am now one of those delegates. And because of having been a delegate there, I now have networks in Ontario, Canada, and around the world. I sit as the chair of the board of the Ontario Puppetry Association on the board of Unima Canada. And because of that, Unima in Canada, just as a side note, is the oldest theater organization in the world with 70 member countries. Because of those 10 years in nurturing, I got invited to the Festival of Wonder in Denmark. It is in a town of 40,000 people that's on a river that has a central square that's 2 hours from a big city that uses trains and cars to get from the big city of Copenhagen to the small city of Silkeborg. Examples of seeing what other cities and countries can do with puppetry and other festivals is the opportunity that I've had with all these delegations from tiny, teeny cities of 400 through to Korea, where they have 60,000 people come per day on a festival weekend. For a few examples that I'm going to zip through of what we're doing projected this summer, and those of you that have this document can, if you feel like later, address, there's videos and other ways that you can look at little teasers of what's happening. But we present ticketed and indoor programming, outdoor programming, and as you'll see here, this gentleman up on the right came to us from Budapest last year. And down on this side here, these people came to us from Mexico. These guys over on the right, they're called Paysan Unique, are coming out of Montreal. Every year for the last, probably the whole time, we've had some version of stilt walkers and highly photo-optic, photo-generic type peeps that wander around downtown and provide opportunities for businesses to have their business centered in social media and versions of us animating the downtown. We also provide something that we feel is fill a hole in the district for children's programming. There's very little that ongoingly occurs here, and we offer all of our down in the park programming for free. And there's children's puppet theater, tea party, face painting, all that stuff that's plus structured making of puppets, as well as this wonderful play zone that's called Théâtre de Petite Âme, the Jardin de Petite Âme, Garden for Littles, that is an interactive play station. And every year we bring it, people ask, why can't we have it here all the time? Because it costs a lot. So over the summer, we are projecting bringing a number of companies, and you'll see some of the projected programming here. If programming does not happen in a single year, there's the potential for it to proceed to another season. So this company is potentially coming from England, and it's music plus puppet. It's teaching you how to conduct and compose. And as we move through, there'll be a bunch of selections. This is a Danish company that we saw when I was in Denmark, and it's using the works of Paul Klee to teach little kids about music and art. And we'll skip through. These are this year's photogenic folks coming from Montreal, and they will be wandering our streets. And again, many, many other works that are potentially coming this year or in the future. Which brings me to the issue of Aviyama. By the nature of us having presented over the last decade, when I was at Castelier this last March, the head of the festival and the ex-mayor of Outremont and the head of Aviyama, coming from France, spent an hour at lunch pitching to me in French and English about the value of why Stratford should join Aviyama. I think we have a different document somewhere here. There it is, the presentation from Aviyama, which I will just scoot through a bit, but you're welcome to ask questions about. This is an alliance of 21 cities in the world, and they're puppet-friendly cities is what they are called, and it is a city alliance as distinct from festivals. And the point of the exercise is for each of those cities to share information about themselves. And so it's a marketing opportunity, and it's a business-to-business opportunity. And as they proceed, there's a fee to be a member, but all of that money goes back into a pot, and the individual city countries can apply back for projects, for awards, for scholarships, and a whole sets of systems for how this works. And their goals are to share the culture of puppetry as an intersecting, a place for people to unite and communicate and connect with each other. And I'll just zip through the end as my time is looking like it's up here. You can see in this document, I think you all have it, of the goals, spaces for exchange, resource possibilities, projects that you can work together in bilateral or multilateral cultural operations. And if nothing else, it provides those of us that apply for funding with a great storytelling point. We're a member of a world federation, 21 countries in the world that are excited about this thing, and we work together. And we can leverage that to raise money within our own sectors. And I'll just pop through the countries that actually already belong down at the bottom here. We would be the first English-speaking city in Canada if we signed on to do this. There are 2 other Canadians. They are in Montreal, Outremont, and in Saguenay. I actually didn't check, but I believe we might also be the only one in North America that would be English-speaking. So you can see here, I'm just going to do one for one, the cities. Charleville is in France, and it is the biggest festival in the world, comparable to the Edinburgh Festival, with 400 acts appearing at any one time. And just, they're the lead on this game. And then you get Chunchun and Dives-sur-Mer, Esch-sur-Sûre, Gand, in Bruges, Lydie. So we have Japan, Italy, France, Spain, Poland, Germany, Czech Republic, and several more. So at this point, I open the floor to any questions that I might offer, answers regarding this year's programming, or why you really, really want to belong to Aviyama.
Thank you for your presentation. And Councillor Henderson, go ahead. I see your hand.
Through the mayor, I just want to thank you for this excellent presentation. I think I speak for staff and everybody in the room. It just makes your heart feel warm. And to think, it's coming from Stratford. And for all this work that you've done and the joy you're bringing children, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing up the children piece. I just want to add in that puppets are for all ages. So we're excited about doing children's programming and cutting-edge, grown-up programming to bring that sort of adventurous age, 30s, 20s to 30s folks into
60s.
60s, all that.
Councillor Wardolfa?
Yeah. So, Chair, Ellen, thank you so much for what you're doing. This is a wonderful presentation. And then we're really happy you are working with newcomers in the area, with Ukrainian, with a lot of newcomers. You help them, you support them, many times you invite them, even you spending your money. One, say thank you so much. And then my question for you, is that any grant? You have any fund from federal government or are you?
Oh my goodness, yes. So we have existed now as an entity. We incorporated in 2010, charity in 2013. Our current funding is 90% grant funding, and we have federal, provincial, and regional sponsorship and grant funding, and we are constantly, as I want to say, Rubik's Cube and Jenga stacking grant funding. We are currently waiting on Main Street and FedDev grants, same as everybody else in town, but we have solid funding that it will pay for at least a central core programming this summer, and depending on the funding, we expand and contract co-relative to that which we have. And we've done that for years so that we can get something up for sure, and then we agilely add, or, oh, I guess it's going to be that size this year.
Thank you.
Does that answer?
Yeah, thanks so much.
Anything further from council? Councillor McCabe.
Fabulous presentation again, Eileen. So the relationship between your company and the city having this designation,
Yes.
how does that actually work in relationship to in other cities where this happens?
Well, my only example, it would be the mayor of Outremont and how excited she was about this project. And so there was an individual in the government of designated that was interested in doing interaction with other aspects, other countries, considering other projects. But also I think the leadership was very tied with the festival leadership in each city. And I think at a minimum level, what one is actually offering is the abstract concept that you are supporting it. So you get a if you were to go to the Aveyama website, you will see each city has a map, and you're automatically linked back to the city's tourism site. And then there's a place for you to put information about what you're doing in your city. And then I guess up to the level of the interest of the individual city, how far they would like to do bipartisan projects, or, you know, it's really up to the level of the entity of how much they would like to do. But the nature of Aveyama has money to make banners for each country, city country, and so when there's a presentation or a conference, if we can't be at the delegation, your banner is there that leads you to the websites and to any information. So if you look at those little pictures, each one of them is a iconic picture of the city plus a puppet. And so, you know, it's a function of degree how much you wish to engage, I think.
Councillor Burbeck, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. Thanks for your presentation. It's really exciting, actually, the opportunity that we have here. I'm wondering, too, you were talking about conferences or whatever. Would there be an opportunity then for Stratford to be a host of a conference?
The actual intention is it's a rotation like many of these kinds of alliances. So the home place is in Charleville, and then every other year it goes to one of the delegate cities. And there's at this moment 21 member cities. And so I've been to when it was in Saguenay, where they had a giant room full of all of the banners, and then however many delegates could be at that conference, and then they presented and had meetings and talked about opportunities, and both in a business-to-business opportunity, as well as where those intersections of supporting puppetry as an art form and versions of, but totally all imaginary about whatever, you know, whether it's restaurants or whether it's other kinds of hospitality or retail. That comes back to the city's level of personal interest in engaging. We'd love to, and I think that's the other thing about this puppetry. Puppeteers talk to other puppeteers, and people that attend festivals talk to us. So we have a very good reputation as a festival, even though we're small, and you'll see that quote from the gentleman from Budapest. And also the Quebec artists will all talk to each other about what their experience is when they come here. So they tell everybody that this is a good festival, and they'll tell me. about what our reputation is. And I think that rolls out in terms of when people as attendees love it, and then they have already decided it's a tradition and they're bringing their children every year, and they become the ambassadors of our work, which makes a circle that brings people back in all the ways and all the reasons.
Councilor Burback, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, just as a follow-up, maybe more question for staff. When I look at this, it really strikes me as something that would be good to talk to Destination Stratford about. I wonder if we could refer back to staff, and I don't know if it's Destination Stratford or if it would fit somewhere else, but I would be interested in finding out a little bit more about it and ways that we could maybe make this work.
I think that would be wise to refer it back, whether it's for membership or more information. So if that's...
I'd like to make that motion.
Make that motion. A second, Councillor McCabe. Just before we call the question on that, anything further for our speaker? So thank you very much. Eileen, Councillor Briscoe?
Thank you, through the chair. Just as we look to potentially join and refer that back, is there a deadline for us?
Well, they invited us in March, and the half year of the season is June. So if we wanted to join within the half year, June would be a good time to have a decision. We can obviously not and go whenever is comfortable for you, but
Thank you.
soft deadline, shall we say, of June.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Well, once again, on behalf of staff and council, thank you for your presentation. We've met a couple times, and you had me at puppets, so thank you very, very much, and we appreciate it.
I so appreciate your time. Have a lovely rest of your evening.
Thank you. So there is a motion on the floor to refer this back to staff for information, possibly the idea of membership as well. It's been moved and seconded. I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's unanimous and carried. Thank you. Next item.
Through you, worship, item 7 is orders of the day, and item 7.1 is a tender award for the Neil Avenue and Glendon Road walkway water main replacement. And there is a staff recommendation that the tender for the Neil Avenue and Glendon Road walkway water main replacement project T-2024-16 be awarded to Burnham Excavating Limited at the tender price noted, and that the mayor and clerk or their respective delegates be authorized to sign the necessary contract agreement.
Moved by Councillor Burback, second by Councillor Bean. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That's unanimous and carried. Thank you.
Item 7.2 is a resolution for the Milton Street Playground Proposal Award, and there is a staff recommendation that the request for proposal RFP-2024-03 for the design, supply, delivery, and installation of an accessible playground, including accessible engineered wood chip base and the installation of an accessible pathway at Milton Street Park from Henderson Recreation Equipment Limited in the amount noted be approved, that the project be funded from the Recreation Capital Reserve Fund, and that the proceeds from the Kiwanis Club of Stratford be used towards this project, flowing through the reserve fund as required.
Moved by Councillor Henderson, seconded by Councillor Beatty. Any discussion? Councillor McCabe, go ahead.
Through the mayor, I'd just like to compliment the Kiwanis Club for always standing up and contributing and making this an even better playground for the community.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's unanimous and carried. Next item.
Item 7.3 is the resolution regarding the Stratford Rotary Club 27th Dragon Boat Festival Municipal Significance Request. And there is a motion that City Council hereby designates the 27th Dragon Boat Festival to be held September 14th at Lower Queens Park between Front Street and Queen Street and Tom Patterson Island as having municipal significance for the purpose of obtaining liquor licenses from the AGCO, subject to the necessary permits being obtained, compliance with the city's municipal alcohol risk policy, compliance with the conditions outlined by the fire department and adhere to at all times during the event, and the required certificates of insurance being provided prior to the event.
Mover for this item. Moved by Councillor Hunter, second by Councillor Burback. Discussion. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, of any? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Item 8 is business for which previous notice has been given, and item 8.1 is the proposed disposition of and sale of city-owned land at 3188 Vivian Line 37. There is a staff recommendation on the agenda as follows: that the report titled Proposed Disposition and Sale of City-Owned Land at 3188 Vivian Line 37 and dated June 10th be received. That City Council hereby declare Power Lot 45 Concession 3 North East Hope Part 2 44R1587 and Part 2 44R1032, except the part noted being vacant city-owned land, no municipally as 3188 Vivian Line 37, to be surplus to the needs of the corporation of the City of Stratford. That the method of disposal of the surplus land be by direct negotiation and sale to a long-term care home provider, including a continuum of care development, and that staff be directed to prepare a further report regarding the sale for council's consideration. And I would note that on the addendum that was circulated earlier today, there is a draft resolution from Paul Brown, and Paul Brown has requested consideration that it be adopted by council.
So, there is a staff recommendation. Is a mover for that? Councillor McCabe will move, second by Councillor Henderson. Discussion on that motion. Councillor Seven.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, should we adopt the proposed, the addendum item prior to this, or is this just sort of a part of it, or am I reading that wrong?
I'll turn to the clerk, but go ahead, Madam Clerk.
So through your worship, the draft resolution was noted for the consideration of council. If this motion proceeds forward the staff recommendation, then council could receive the correspondence for information.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion that's been moved and seconded? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's unanimous and carried. And I will turn to Councillor Seven with regards to the addendum issue. Did you want to bring anything forward with regards to that item?
No, thank you.
Okay. Next item.
Through you, worship, item 9 is report of the standing committee. Item 9.1 is the report of the social services committee, and there are 2 items listed. Item 9.1.1 is the homemakers and nurses services contract renewal, June 1st, 2024 to May 31st, 2026. And item 9.1.2 is the social services partnership with Spruce Lodge update.
Moved by Councillor Henderson, thank you, and seconded by Councillor Burbach. Discussion on those items. Councillor Bean, go ahead.
Thank you, through the mayor. I would just like to take this time to express my gratitude to the community on behalf of the residents of Woodlawn Towers. I felt to let the residents of Stratford know that Spruce Lodge nonprofit housing continues to promote and provide affordable housing for seniors as well as for adults with disabilities across our community. And the affordable housing units have access to all the services and amenities of Spruce Lodge, including the warm water therapy pool, with an aim of providing quality of life in a continuum of care. And Spruce Lodge nonprofit is a treasure in Stratford, and the community plays a huge part in that. So I just wanted to express my gratitude to the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bean. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That's unanimous and carried.
Item 9.2 is the report of the Community Services Committee, and there's 1 item listed, and that's item 9.2.1, Municipal Golf Course Agreement 2024 to 2026.
Moved by Councillor McCabe, second by Councillor Beatty. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That's unanimous and carried.
Item 10 is notice of intent, and there's none scheduled. Moving to item 11, reading of the bylaws. There are 4 bylaws listed for consideration as follows. Item 11.1 is the Stratford Municipal Golf Course Lease Agreement. Item 11.2 is to award the tender for the Neil Avenue Glendon Road Walkway Water Main Replacement Project. Item 11.3 is to award the tender for the Milton Street Playground installation. And item 11.4 is the Homemakers and Nurses Services Contract Agreement. And these bylaws can be taken collectively upon unanimous vote of council present.
A mover to take them collectively. Councillor Henderson will move. Councillor Hunter will second. Discussion.